Carmel, Indiana has a goal to change out all of their traffic lights and build roundabouts in their place. Roundabouts are certainly becoming more popular in the US. However, there is no place in America that has implemented roundabouts on the scale that Carmel has. Out of all of their intersections, 151 of them are roundabouts, with only less than 15 traffic lights remaining. And the city has a goal to change out all of their traffic lights for roundabouts. And they're pretty far along on this goal. And right now, they have more roundabouts than any other city in the United States. But to figure out why they even wanted to do this in the first place, I spoke with Carmel, Indiana's former mayor Jim Brainard, who implemented Carmel's roundabout plan and turned the city into the Roundabout Capital of America. Today, there have been quite a few studies done on roundabouts that show they are more efficient and much safer than traffic lights. But when Carmel started building roundabouts, there was not that much information to work with. Roundabouts are a relatively newer concept in the United States and really didn't start getting built until the 1990s. And Carmel was one of the first cities in the US to try out roundabouts.
I had the opportunity to go to England and study there and saw roundabouts. They've built a lot in Europe before we did, although I don't think any city in Europe has as many as we do today. But I'd seen back in the early 1980s, I'd seen the roundabouts, what's called the Mountain Roundabout in England, and just watching them, I knew they worked better. And so I started to do some research when I became mayor. I remember going to the Purdue University Library in January of 1996, pulling articles because some of the local engineers, consulting engineers, did not want the professional stamp on them. So I had to convince the consulting engineers to try the first few because so few had been built. And eventually we did that. But, if I had probably had a background in civil or traffic engineering, I wouldn't have asked as many questions as I did. And I asked some of those civil engineers, why are you still building stoplights? They're so dangerous. And no one could really give me an answer. That's just what they've been taught to do.
Roundabouts have shown that they improve the quality of life for residents, and ensuring a high quality of life is important, which is why I'm excited to announce that this video is sponsored by BetterHelp. For me, exploring incredible cities with great design certainly improves my quality of life. However, prioritizing my mental health is also incredibly important to leading a strong lifestyle. Getting outside and exploring cities is certainly one way that I improve my mental health. But when it comes to the relationships in your life, I think having someone to talk to about them is essential. If you have tough questions about relationships in your life, BetterHelp will connect you with a therapist who can help you find answers to some of these questions, where you can talk through relationship concerns with someone who's trained to help you find real answers. You fill out a questionnaire and you will match with a therapist in as little as a couple days. You can easily switch therapists at any time for no extra cost if it's not the right fit. They carefully make sure therapists on the platform are well qualified, and their customer support team is there to help you if you have any questions. There are so many kinds of relationships that can be improved by therapy. Click the link in the description or go to betterhelp.com/shortcutdocumentaries and get 10% off your first month of therapy. I want to thank BetterHelp for sponsoring this video. Roundabouts are way more efficient and way safer than traffic lights. When you have to move a lot of cars through a city that has a bit of suburban sprawl, it can lead to some pretty bad traffic. However, that can totally be fixed by installing a series of roundabouts. And that's what Carmel did in one of their first roundabout projects.
We were designing a brand new highway. It's going to be a 4-lane highway running along the east side of Carmel from the north end to the south end. Brand new road through former farm fields that were going to quickly be developed. As we designed that road, we decided to add 2 roundabouts to it. But it was basically in a place where people couldn't see it under construction. So we just waited until the road was about to open and started telling everybody, hey, we have roundabouts on this road, and here's why, and did a lot of public education. The name of the road was the Hazel Dell Parkway. We put 2 roundabouts on it. Today we have 6 roundabouts on it. We put a couple stoplights in because we thought the traffic volume was too high for roundabouts, but then later learned that no, they work better. The roundabouts, in addition to being much, much safer, move about 50% more traffic per hour than a stoplight.
A common misconception about roundabouts is that they cannot be implemented on busy roads and that installing roundabouts on busy roads will just lead to more traffic. However, as Jim Brainard will explain, oftentimes traffic lights on busy roads just lead to wider roads, and what Jim describes as parking lots, or a bunch of cars just piled up in traffic waiting for the light to turn green.
We all know that song, pave over paradise, put up a parking lot. And that's in essence what many traffic engineers, unwittingly, I think, because that's just the way they were taught to do it, were doing. They were adding more lanes to our roads and streets simply to create a bigger parking lot at each stoplight. So when that green cycle started, you could get more cars through in a less amount of time. But if the roundabouts move 50% more cars because of the constant flow, we don't have to add all those lanes, which leaves space for bike lanes, wider sidewalks. From a traffic flow standpoint, it's much better.
Roundabouts can certainly improve traffic efficiency. However, at the same time, they also greatly improve safety.
We know that every year in Carmel, we have just over 100,000 people. So if we were at the U.S. average of 12 fatalities per year, we're at 2. And that means that if you look at that data, we're saving about 10 lives per year. Over a decade, that's 100 people. We don't know who those 100 people would be, but statistically, that's how many lives are being saved. And then there's the serious injury accident rate is way down as well by between 80 and 90% in our city, contrasted to national averages. It's all about speed. Roundabouts are safer for drivers. They're also safer for cyclists, and pedestrians. Our pedestrian fatality rate is much, much less than any of our peer cities around the Midwest and most cities anywhere in the United States. It's because of speed. We know that a pedestrian has about only a 10% chance of surviving a collision with a vehicle at 50 miles per hour. At 10 to 20 miles an hour, they have about a 95% chance of surviving. And so everyone has to slow down for the roundabouts. It's all about speed.
However, some of the safety measures that are implemented in roundabouts today were not always standard. And because Carmel was one of the first places in the US to build roundabouts, they had to learn along the way.
So over time, we got better and better. We found out angling the road to slow down speeds. It was interesting, at 106 and Gray, on the far southeast side of Carmel, we had a big natural gas pipeline running very close to the four-way stop intersection that we wanted to convert to a roundabout. And so we angled the road to go into the roundabout. And we suddenly realized after it was built that our fender bender rate at that one was the best one out of the 15 or so roundabouts we had at the time. And so I thought, this is interesting. And we realized that after observing it, that it was because people were slowing down because of the jog in the road before they even got to the roundabout. And so we built that into a lot of future roundabouts, whether we needed to or not, just from a safety standpoint. And so we learned as we went. And then the U.S. Department of Transportation eventually got around to issuing roundabout standards for engineers across the country to use. And our engineers were very involved with helping them do that, because of that, by that time we had more roundabouts than any other city in the U.S. And I think at one point we had more roundabouts than the rest of the U.S. combined.
So after understanding all of these benefits, it makes sense why Carmel wants to replace all of its traffic lights with roundabouts. But the irony of this is that Carmel, Indiana was actually one of the first places in the entire United States to have an automated traffic signal. And funnily enough, they might actually be the first to get rid of them all. Well, all of them except for one.
But just on our city roads, I think we're down to 4 stoplights. And there's plans to remove all of those stoplights except for one, which is in a very congested area in the Art and Design District. And traffic is already going very slowly, so it's not a safety issue. Just it's too tight to put a roundabout in at that one location. And ironically, that's one of the locations that held one of the first stoplights in the country. There's a plaque there that there's another community, I think, in Virginia that claims to be the first It's what it says on our plaque as well. I think they were within days of each other back in 1910 or so.
To date, Carmel, Indiana has installed 151 roundabouts and has only a few traffic lights remaining. I am not used to driving through roundabouts, and when I visited Carmel to film this video, I spent the day driving around. And let me tell you, it's a very unique experience as you really never have to stop. It's roundabout after roundabout after roundabout, and it's great. When I reached the border of Carmel and Indianapolis, it honestly felt strange when I stopped at a traffic light and waited for over a minute for the light to turn green.
The city of Carmel could take out a roundabout today if they wanted to. The fight's over who gets the next one.
Roundabouts have become a defining feature of Carmel, Indiana, and that's for good reason. They have made the city more beautiful, safe, and efficient. In part 2 of this video, I'm going to explore the beauty and efficiency of roundabouts and how Carmel has used them to make their city more beautiful. And I'll continue my conversation with former Mayor Jim Brainard to learn how he did it.